In the quiet coastal town of Willow Cove, nestled between rolling hills and the vast Atlantic, stood a modest yet elegant home where Julia Evans had spent the last decade of her life. As a well-respected children's book editor at a small but successful publishing house, she had dedicated herself to a career she loved. Her auburn hair was just beginning to show traces of silver, yet her soft hazel eyes still held the same warmth and hope they had when she first married David Carter. David, an ambitious executive in his father's real estate empire, had always been charming and persuasive, traits that had initially drawn Julia to him. They had met during a college literature club, where they dreamed of traveling the world and building a life filled with adventure and love. But after 10 years of marriage, those dreams had faded into the background, replaced by the rigid expectations of the Carter family. Julia had long struggled to find her place within the Carter dynasty. David's mother, Margaret, an influential socialite in Willow Cove, made no effort to hide her disappointment in Julia. "She edits children's books?" Margaret had once scoffed at a charity gala. "How quaint." David's sister, Olivia, a sharp-tongued corporate strategist, was no kinder. She frequently reminded Julia of her own successful career while subtly belittling Julia's work. Their criticisms had only grown harsher after Julia and David had tried unsuccessfully to conceive. After years of fertility treatments and crushing disappointments, their doctor had delivered the news. There's no medical reason preventing conception, but sometimes, unexplained infertility can make things difficult. To the Carter family, that was simply unacceptable. One crisp autumn morning, on Julia's birthday, David had kissed her on the cheek and handed her a small, wrapped box before rushing off to work. "Happy birthday. Let's celebrate properly tonight," he had said. Later that day, Margaret called. "Julia, dear, let's celebrate your birthday as a family. Meet us at Belle Maison at 7. Belle Maison was an elite French restaurant in town, far grander than anything Margaret had ever arranged for Julia before. "David will meet you there later," Margaret added before hanging up. Julia hesitated. Why now? Why this sudden kindness? And why was she to meet them alone? Still, she allowed herself a small hope. Perhaps, after years of judgment and cold remarks, they were finally accepting her. That evening, Julia dressed carefully in a black cocktail dress, wearing the delicate diamond necklace David had gifted her that morning. She arrived at Belle Maison precisely at 7, her heart fluttering with cautious optimism. The host greeted her with a polite nod. "The Carter party is expecting you. Right this way." She was led to a private dining room in the back of the restaurant. As the heavy oak doors swung open, Julia stepped inside. The room was empty. A lavishly set table sat before her, adorned with candles and flowers. 7 champagne glasses glimmered under the chandelier's soft glow, waiting to be raised in a toast. But there was no one there. On the table lay a single envelope with her name written in Margaret's elegant handwriting. With trembling hands, Julia picked it up and unfolded the papers inside. Divorce papers. A note, written in Margaret's unmistakable script, was tucked beside them. "Happy birthday. The barren wife must go. David deserves a real family." Julia's vision blurred. Her breath caught in her throat. She turned the second page and saw David's signature already in place. A second note, this one from David, was clipped to the document. "I need an heir. Julia, I've moved to another apartment. Goodbye." Her hands shook as the papers slipped from her grasp. The cruel reality of it all pressed down on her like a crushing weight. This was how a decade of marriage ended. Tears welled in her eyes. But something inside her refused to break. Defect. That was what they had called her. She straightened her back, took a deep breath, and pressed the call button for a waiter. When the young man appeared, she asked calmly, "Who is paying for this dinner?" "Mr. Carter's credit card, ma'am." A slow, determined smile formed on Julia's lips. "In that case, I'd like the finest dinner and champagne for one." 3 months later, Julia stood in her small apartment, holding a letter from a law firm in Nantucket. Inside was an unexpected revelation. Her late grandmother had left her a hidden fortune. Investments that had quietly grown over the years. The amount was staggering, $8 million. Julia's life had changed in an instant. With her newfound independence, she left behind the painful memories of the Carter family. She opened a cozy bookstore in town, something she had always dreamed of, and built a new life on her own terms. 2 years later, she sat in that very bookstore, now thriving, reading to a group of children as the warmth of a new beginning surrounded her. Seated in the audience was Michael Reed, a compassionate surgeon she had met through her store, whose kindness had slowly healed the wounds of her past. From across the room, she caught a glimpse of a familiar face, Margaret Carter, seated at a corner table. Her once proud demeanor faded. Next to her sat David, now divorced again, looking far older than his years. Julia met their gaze for a fleeting moment, then turned away, her heart full and her future brighter than ever. They had written her off as a failure. But Julia had found something they never would, true happiness, built on her own strength. The past was behind her. The future was hers to write.